Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our TISO speaker series. For those who don't know me, my name is Anthony Lai. I'm the Student Affairs Program Manager here at TISO. Tonight, we're in a special treat. We have a very special webinar planned for all of you. We have gathered 6 of our distinguished, celebrated, and honored alums of the school, and we're going to have a discussion on how they have restarted their careers given the challenges each of them have faced over the past year. During the talk, we'll discuss what lessons the alumni panel have learned during the COVID-19 pandemic and how all of our alums have restarted their dreams, passions, and careers. Before we begin, we do have just a few minor instructions on how the webinar discussion will flow. The first one, all of us in the audience today, you are in the webinar background and you are currently muted. If you do have a question for one of our alums, type it in our Q&A feature. Just click on the Q&A icon, type in your question. We will reserve the last 10 minutes for a question and answer session. This webinar is being recorded. If you missed out on a portion of this webinar, you can watch the entirety of the panel discussion on our YouTube channel. Just type in @TISO channel, and we'll have that video uploaded within the next few days. So sit back, listen, learn, and enjoy from our distinguished group of alumni panelists. So I'll begin with the introductions of our amazing alumni panel, and they include, beginning with Andrea Chandler. Andrea is a 2017 graduate in the Executive Diploma in Hospitality Operations, emphasis in event management. Andrea is currently the event consultant for RSVP Party Rentals. I'm beginning from the top left to my right, okay? Next we have is Dania Clark. Dania is the 2019 Conference Management and Event Planning graduate. She is currently the Global Sales Associate for the Associated Luxury Hotels International. Next we have is Brianna Jones. Brianna is a 2017 Executive Diploma in Hospitality Operations graduate. Her emphasis was in event management. She is currently the Sales Coordinator for Destinations by Design. Next is Colleen Kestel-Reme. She's a 2007 graduate in Wedding Coordination and Design. She's the owner of Ginger and Jade. We also have Sheena Pina. Sheena is a 2012 Wedding Coordination and Design graduate. She's the event sales manager for Grand Sierra Resort. And last but not least, we have Thiago Roden. Thiago is a 2017 Diploma in Hospitality Operations graduate, also the emphasis in event management. He is currently the events and marketing coordinator for Galpo Biocho Brazilian Steakhouse. I know Thiago is going to correct me on that. Panel, are we ready to begin? Just give me a nod, yes? Wonderful. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work in this kind of order. So we begin with the first question that we have to our alumni panel. The first question is, why did you decide to enroll at TISO, and how was your overall experience? I'll begin with the first on our list, Andrea. Andrea.
Hi, everyone. Ultimately, I decided to go to TISO. I was living in Florida for multiple years, and when I turned 21, I decided I wanted to come out to Vegas, where my brother was located. And I just started Googling a bunch of hospitality schools and found TISO. I flew out the next weekend. I met Anthony and Marcus, and I decided this was it for me. So I moved to Vegas 3 months later, and I've been here ever since. And it's the best decision I ever made.
Thanks, Andrea. And Andrea, have you worked in hospitality before you enrolled in TISO, or what drove you into the hospitality route?
So when I was in Florida, I did like banquet caterings at a restaurant, but I always saw them book weddings and events. And I was like, I would watch the planner and I was like, ooh, I want to be her. Like, I want to do that. That's really fun. And then when I went to TISO, I was like, ooh, I can do that. And now I'm doing that.
Excellent. All right. How about you, Dania?
I worked for MGM, and I had a colleague who was an instructor at TISO, and another colleague who had graduated from TISO, and then another colleague who was also interested in pursuing her CMP. So we partnered and we said, well, we are going to go get our continuing credits so that we could get our CMP.
Yeah, so you were actually in the industry already, and you wanted to come to our school to get that additional certification, that continuing education credit for the CMP. Can you tell us in the audience what is a CMP?
CMP is a Certified Meeting Professional Search Certification. It just allows you to be better well recognized in the industry. It certifies you in meeting planning, meeting design, meeting organization, and just kind of how to recognize different acronyms, different subjects, and criteria in the event planning industry. It's a very intricate test that requires a lot of studying. As if anyone is interested, you'll see everyone says you need to study, you need to practice, and be prepared for the exam.
Yes, absolutely. So for our students in our conference management and event planning class, you do get credits, continuing education credits towards the CMP certification. But we'll provide that more information to our students within closer to graduation date. Thank you, Dania. Next we have is Brianna. Brianna, tell us a little bit about what made you decide to enroll at TISO. Oh, you're on mute, so I'm going to ask you to unmute.
All right, so while I was in college, I was in student government when I was in college at Dixie State, and I was the representative for the Multicultural Diversity Center. So I planned a lot of events for the clubs that I represented, and I really enjoyed it. When I moved back to Vegas, I was a vendor for Nestle, and I realized it wasn't something that I really wanted to do, and I really enjoyed planning events. And my mother is actually the one who told me about TISO through a coworker of hers at ARIA, and I did a little more research, and I was like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go ahead and just take that step and see where it takes me. So yeah.
Yeah, and look at where you're at now.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. Question, Colleen, how about you?
So I enrolled in TISO, I think in the very beginning of TISO back in 2007. I was 10, of course. I had worked in food and beverage growing up, all through high school, through college, into my early 20s. And I was asked to open the wedding chapel at Mandalay Bay kind of from the ground up. Had never even been in a Las Vegas wedding chapel in my life. And through meeting some connections, there used to be an instructor named Christy at TISO years ago. She told me about the program. So I decided to enroll just because, like I said, I knew nothing about weddings. I mean, other than, you know, just the basics. So it really helped me navigate through my new career in the wedding industry. At that time, you know, I didn't know how long I was going to be in weddings, if it was something temporary, because I was supposed to be the temporary manager of the wedding chapel. But that career lasted for 16 years throughout MGM resorts with both Mandalay Bay and ARIA. And it's amazing.
Yeah,
I learned so much going through that program.
It made you fall in love with the weddings.
It really did. It really, really did.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
And another wedding alum we have here, Sheena. Sheena, tell us a little bit about what made you decide to enroll at TISO.
Sorry, I had to unmute. So I actually stumbled upon TISO or learned about TISO just from Google searching. I had a background for interior design prior to searching, and then I wanted to get more into wedding design and wedding planning. So I found the school and I applied. And during that time, I was working in hospitality, but not in weddings. I was working at the Cosmopolitan. So I was just a host there for about 2 years while I was still going to school at TISO, but it was back in 2012 when it was literally just one I think just one building, and now we have multiple buildings. So I kind of wish I was a student later on. But we had a lot of good resources and tools and really good instructors that helped us throughout the program. And I really like the fact that the class sizes were so small. My class, I think it was about maybe eight students. So we all got really close and we were able to really help each other with projects. So it was a really good experience.
Yeah, and are you still close with those alums?
So two of them I still talk to once in a while, but the others I haven't spoke to in forever.
It's always a great way to reconnect with our past alums. And I like seeing, I know many of you, just even forming this alumni panel, I reached out to you, Sheena, to you, Andre, and then I connected you with Diago and Brianna, and we all kind of just basically all came together into to this panel. So thank you for that. Last but not least, the gentleman in the room, Diago. Diago, tell us a little bit about why you choose TISOH.
Oh man, it was fun. I actually graduated in 2019, but what made me choose TISOH, I mean, I moved to America. I'm Brazilian, so I moved to America in December 2009. So I worked in hospitality through all these years until 2018, I mean. And but I always worked from the house, right? Hotels, serving, restaurants, and everything. Then I visited TISOH, and I spoke with you. I believe in 2017, and by that time, I wasn't really feeling right. Like I was having a lot of stuff in my mind, and like a lot of different jobs, trying to save money. It was like maybe it wasn't that good time for me. But then 1 year later, we met again, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm ready to do this.
Yeah.
And the fact that all the professionals, instructors, were part of the industry, that was the deal breaker for me. Like that was amazing, because not just they wasn't just book smart, but they were like living and breathing the hospitality industry every single day. And that's what made me make my decision, and it was the best decision ever.
Thank you. Yes, good for you. All right, so now we have our next question, and we're going to get straight to the point. So to the alums. So how has your job been affected by COVID-19? Were you welcomed back to your previous role, or did you move on to other opportunities? I'll begin with you, Andrea.
Straight into the point, yes, I got affected in March of, oh my gosh, March of 2020. I was let go from Host, which is a destination management company. Everyone was let go. The office went temporarily shut down, and they ended up bringing 3 people back. I did the unemployment thing for 8 months. And then finally, I decided that hospitality wasn't going to come back, as fast as I needed money. So I pivoted into homes. So I used my sales coordinator background from Host to do it for homes. So I wrote contracts for homes instead of events. And I did that for about 6 months until I started seeing the industry come back. And luckily enough, I was able to pivot to a promotion to RSVP party rentals. For a higher position and a little bit more money. And it's great to see the industry come back now, and it is coming back strong and is very, very busy.
I bet, yeah, lots of need for talent, especially. And just want to add on to that, Andrea. So you mentioned about pivoting. Did you find it difficult to pivot to, I know you worked at KB Homes as a sales coordinator, and then you went back to the industry. Was it, I'm sure it was challenging, or was it, how did you tackle that?
It was a little interesting the first couple weeks, because I was kind of like, wait, like I know this stuff, like I know how to pipe and drape, or I know linen sizes for tables, but it was kind of like, at that point, it had been well over a year. And stepping into a new role that I didn't 100% know, I definitely had to go back, and I was even at home kind of like on my off time kind of going through things. And for me, during the whole unemployment thing, all of my contacts that I met at school or through the industry or anyone that I ever interned through, I was reaching out to them at least once a month so they wouldn't forget my face. I was constantly updating my resume, whether it be a new color or a new font, just to get my face back out there. And through COVID, before I got my job at RSVP, I started doing like COVID weddings, and that's actually how I ended up at RSVP. Somebody that I interned for 2 years while I was at TISO recommended me for the job, and that's one of the reasons I actually got it. So for me, it was definitely staying in touch with everyone so that they didn't forget you, because I knew there was going to be a lot of people applying for jobs trying to get back into the industry, and it was interesting.
Of course, thank you for that. How about you, Dania?
My job was affected March of 2020 as well, along with, I think, some thousand other employees with MGM. Once I was let go, I decided, okay, well, we gotta still keep living and figure out how to stay mentally healthy, sound, and take care of yourself. So of course, I applied for jobs nonstop. My friend and I, we made spreadsheets and we were like logging how many yeses and possibilities and how many no's we got. Just tried to stay focused on getting back employed, but also say, let's enjoy life. So it was a healthy balance between make sure you maintain the financials and the mental of it. So once I was no longer being welcomed back to MGM immediately, or as soon as I would, like within that 6 months, like Andrea said, like as fast as I needed money, I wasn't welcome back. I had to figure out where to pivot to, and I decided to relocate to see opportunities in a state that was open, which was Texas. So in August of 2020, I moved to Texas as I knew that they were still doing their thing over here. So I moved here and sought out employment, and I was able to secure a job.
Wonderful. And that job is Global Sales Associate for the Associated Luxury Hotels International. I know some of us, our students in the audience, are not familiar with that role. Could you share us a little bit? Because it's not your typical event planning job. What does it entail?
Correct. I will say I actually was introduced through Persons in Vegas, because that company's CEO relocated from MGM as well. And a lot of the persons within the company are from Las Vegas as well. But as a global sales associate, I support directors of sales that have accounts within the industry. So they work alongside different wedding planners, meeting planners, and organizations that source hotel rooms, hotel event space, and cruises as well. Mm-hmm. We represent 300 plus independent hotels around the world.
Wonderful. And I also want to add, when you were looking for jobs during that period, what jobs were you looking for? Were they hospitality related? I could have, obviously think that maybe there wasn't that many during that time, during that period.
I definitely stayed within hospitality. I started leaning into restaurants, even though restaurant is not my jam, but I know operations is something I do very well in. So I was comfortable with seeking out an operational role within a restaurant because I knew they were still open, but I was like, I don't want to do food and beverage. I don't want to do food and beverage, but it would have gotten my foot into the door so that I could, keep the skill. Because as Andrea said, being out of it, you're like, wait, what linen goes on what table? How do you set a table? So I wanted to get back in the industry so I didn't lose what I had. Because you don't use it, you lose it. So I leaned into some restaurant opportunities and now into sales as opposed to events.
Wonderful. All right. How about you, Brianna?
Oh, am I on mute? I'm not on mute.
No,
right?
You're good.
Okay. All right. So pretty much with I was affected as well, kind of similar to Andrea's. situation. So I was let go in March 2020, and I was on unemployment until September. During that time, I was looking for jobs that were in hospitality, but of course, out here it was very, very slim to none. So I was starting to look for positions in sales because that is pretty much what my background is in. And of course, I was having difficulty finding jobs, but I remember a coworker of mine worked at a call center, and she was like, you should try it out and, just, see what's out there. So I actually ended up getting a job at Pacific Dental Services as a contact center representative, where I was scheduling appointments. I did that for 6 months, and I shortly realized that, event planning is definitely something that I want to stick with. So it's pretty much just a job just to kind of keep me going, and, staying at home was tough. I have to work, I can't just be at home all day. But during that time, I was in contact with my manager at DVD. So I stayed in contact with her the whole entire time during COVID. And she actually reached back out to me May of this year. And she was like, do you want your job back? And I was like, absolutely. I was like, I'm there. So yeah, I just made sure to keep in contact with everyone at DVD.
Yeah, I think the running thing is keeping in contact, keeping that connection, because a lot of times we don't hear from each other, and, this is the perfect time to reconnect and do all that. All right. How about you, Colleen?
Sorry. My job was affected. So aside from owning Ginger and Jade, I also work for the spas at Red Rock and Green Valley Ranch, and I do their group sales, any type of events they have coming in, dealing with corporate groups, etc. And I was laid off, and that's kind of what brought my business on. My daughter and I just kind of started experimenting with cheese and charcuterie gift boxes with brides in mind. Because I would remember when I worked in the wedding industry that they would always show up like starving and hungry, and nobody has time to eat and everybody's rushed. So we started just putting these little boxes out on Instagram, and it actually completely pivoted. And it wasn't a lot of wedding type people, obviously, because weddings weren't going on. It was more people sending them to their loved ones that they couldn't see during COVID. So a lot of elderly people, I had a lot of people from the state sending it to their family here in town. So I guess if anything, COVID was a benefit for that part of my business, but not my 9-to-5 job that I had. So it was great for that. It's still going. I never thought that I would take it this far. And I am still working for the spas at Red Rock and Green Valley Ranch. So it has been, definitely interesting to juggle both. But I do think with having the experience as a wedding planner and just that type of background, I feel like you can handle anything at that point. So, anything that people throw at you, you're able to just navigate through. But this is my last week with the spas. I'm actually moving on to a different company. We are still going to keep Ginger and Jade intact, especially coming up this fall during, wedding season and stuff. We do have a lot of business booked. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, congrats on Ginger and Jade. I know it must have been tough to, start your own business and really launch it.
Yeah, I've definitely learned a lot this past year, more than I thought I knew a lot about food and beverage. But just, since I worked in food and beverage, there's so many different elements now. There's, the social media side of it, and just, it's a lot, but it's been such a great learning experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for that. How about you, Sheena?
So last year in March, when COVID hit, I was actually pretty fortunate. I did work throughout the whole time. I was the private events director at Anthem Country Club in Henderson, and we still were able to, have to-go orders because guests can still roll up to the valet. We bring them, food, and that's how we would sell or make revenue. So a lot of our members, it's a private owned club. So a lot of our members were really loyal to the staff. So they would constantly purchase, food from us to keep the club afloat. They also were they created a spring fund for my staff to make sure nobody quits during COVID. So actually I was really happy when I was able to tell my bartenders and my servers that everyone would still get paid the same throughout all the COVID. So we were very, very fortunate during that time, especially in the beginning last year. Other than that, a lot of the hard part was all my events shifting to 2021 or 2022, having to move all the weddings, move all the big events because of the restrictions. So that was a little challenging, as well as slowly when the governor started lifting the guest counts for, limitations for different rooms. I had to adjust and create all new packages, new corporate packages, new small micro wedding packages. So I really had to think outside of the box, as well as try to host more outdoor events and think of what we can do with the restrictions. So for me, it was harder, definitely harder to plan around all the restrictions, but we did make it through. And then we got really busy this past spring. I did end up moving. I left the company in May, but I know they're doing great right now. I actually moved to the Reno Lake Tahoe area. So now I'm working for Grand Sierra Resort. So they're kind of feeling the wave of all these weddings that were moved. So I'm really, really busy right now. So we went from super slow and now we're just slammed. So, but yeah, I know it was a really hard time for everybody, but luckily the staff at Anthem, they were taking care of her, which I'm pretty happy about. That's kind of the good thing about working from a hotel's perspective in a private country club. It's more like a family environment there where all the private members really care about the staff and you build these close relationships and they really try to take care of you during the hard times. I know a lot of my old coworkers at the Wynn got laid off. Luckily, I just heard a lot of them that I used to work with over there at the Wedding Chapel, a lot of them are back. So that makes me really happy. But yeah, definitely a learning experience.
Absolutely, and you had to learn to be creative, while being open and staying open and keeping afloat, and really, nurture that culture of your employees, that positive environment, because I'm sure everyone was dealing with it. Like they may not know that they may have that job the next day or not.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. And Thiago, tell us a little bit about your COVID-19 experience.
It was awesome. I was definitely hit by that time. I was working at a company called By Design here in Las Vegas. I started over there as an intern, by the way, through an introduction of one of the structures at Tiso, not a job interview, literally. This wonderful lady, she's one of the structures. She just pretty much, when everything was open back then, she just pretty much opened and set up almost like a personal site visit for me at By Design. She straight up told me like, hey, you're gonna have 15 minutes with the CEO, pick his brain, you're still a student, ask questions, and this is not a job interview, but I got you this. And I was fortunate enough 3 days later, because I asked for the job, of course. He hired me. I started as an intern, unpaid. Then I finally moved to pay per hour. And then I finally got my contract as operations coordinator, full-time position, and then COVID hits. So it was definitely tough, by that time I was doing 3 different things at the same time. So I was still at school. On the morning, I was at By Design, and at night, I was working behind the bar at Marquee nightclub at Cosmo. So I was sleeping like 4 hours a day, but 100% worth it. It was, most of you guys remember, but it's it's a mix of feelings when you finally get that certificate, when you finally done with everything, because for most of people that are listening to us right now, this is a family. Like TISO, it's really a family. Like we help each other. I love the fact that the classes are still small, averaging between like 5 to 10 to 15 students. So that's what is amazing about it. And I never lost contact with any of you guys, right? So my past job, I never lost contact with Tim, with Anthony, and just pretty much checking. I took the time to actually study a lot. I got a bunch of certifications. I was under unemployment, so I completely cut my expenses 100%, like to the bone, just so I could afford just pretty much to pay rent. And I was investing myself. I applied to many different positions, of course, but it was tough back then. Like March, April was really tough. Nobody was really hiring. I did some driving for delivery apps just to make some extra. And then finally October, beginning of October, I literally knock at this people door at Fashion Show Mall. It's a Brazilian steakhouse that I work today. And I noticed they're actually still building the place, was under construction. I knocked at the door like, hey, are you guys hiring? It's like, man, the place is not even built yet. Like, you know, and then I was lucky, and that's the name, luck, because the owner was there and he was like carrying some boxes and everything. I just said hi. It's like, hey, do you guys have a sales position, marketing, group dining, whatever? Like, he was like, actually, we don't. Come back next week and we talk. And then finally happened. But I know we're gonna discuss this later, but I was ready to do some crazy stuff, right? Like hit the DMCs, pretty much like knock on every people's door to ask for a job. So, and yeah, hard work, but paid off.
Yeah, definitely your persistence has gotten to, that position. And I think without that, it wouldn't have come into fruition.
You have to ask.
Yeah. All right. So our next question, I'm going to bring this up. And it kind of touches a little bit about what we have discussed, but we can expand a little bit more. If there is one thing you would have done differently during this pandemic, what would it be? And I'll start with you, Andrea.
Two things. I should have saved a lot more when the Trump money was coming in. And two, I wish, as much as I stayed in contact with people I knew, I kind of wish I did it in a better way instead of just checking in, being like, hey, I hope everything's okay. More of maybe possibly when it opened up more to like meet face to face or get on a phone call instead of just texting. I think we all can agree during this pandemic, we learned that working all the time and being busy all the time is not necessarily great. You start to miss those friendships and miss I don't have any family here. So I had a lot of time, to call my mom and my parents and kind of catch up. And it kind of makes you slow down and think like, hey, what's important to you? And I think that having all that time to process and kind of get your mental health, ready and focus on you besides work and the million other things we have going on. So I would say I learned a lot about myself during the pandemic. So
yeah, definitely keeping in contact. But all times, who knew that, this would, like, my impression, and I'm sure everybody else is like, we didn't think this would last till like over no more than a few months. And it extended. And given our like our own mental health, we may not even be in the mood to even reach out. We're all kind of dealing with our own personal struggles. But I think now is the time, like, to anyone here in the audience, to students, there's really no time limit to connect. Just go ahead and connect. See what happens. See what you can do to really rely on your database, your networks. How about you, Dania?
I honestly wouldn't change a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There was some great experiences through the pandemic. Being unemployed, you just learned how to survive with meeting your needs and not overextending yourself, and just, you know, appreciating the now and the present and living off of what you have. But I wouldn't have changed anything. I built positive relationships even during it. Moving to Texas, I kind of networked and shared that I was moving here. So many folks introduced me to people that they knew here in Dallas, which allowed me to find work here and find a safe space, even when we had a snowstorm here in Texas that no one was expecting. So that was a great experience out of it. I did save when the extra money was coming in. I traveled very modestly by car, so I didn't take any extravagant flights. I traveled very modestly so that I could save that extra that was coming in through unemployment. Honestly, now that I'm back employed, I'm looking back at fun employed as like, I had a good routine. I was working out to stay like mentally well. So I had a good workout schedule. I was fasting, positively fasting, not fasting because I couldn't buy food, but positively fasting and just doing things to keep me happy and healthy. But now that I'm back working, I can feel myself losing that part of me, you know what I mean? And it felt good when I was in the midst of it over the last year, but now that I'm getting back into this work routine, I'm like, something feels off, and it's that everything that I was doing for me. So I got my CMP during the pandemic, so that was a great achievement. So sitting at home was kind of good so that you could pursue all those goals that you did set in 2019 and 17, even if it was starting your business, getting some certifications, and just trying something new. So I was able to do that. So I'm not saying that the pandemic unemployment was all fun and games, but looking back on it, it was a lot of a good time to invest in yourself, your soul, and your personal wellness, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more on that. And for you, Brianna?
For me, well, I will say one thing I wish I would have done a little more is not be afraid to get out of the house. Mainly because after everything started opening up a lot more, I realized that literally Nevada as a whole, even areas here in Las Vegas, has so much to offer. There's so many hiking trails. There's actually a lot more to do. And I will be honest, I grew up here in Vegas, and, you know, I was always in that mindset where it was like, all you can do is go to the Strip and that's it, you know, but I wish I would have really like kind of explored to actually learn more about what Vegas has to offer. But that's probably like the only thing I would have changed. But other than that, I feel like I did like a lot of Zoom calls with my friends. Before everything shut down, I actually went to Belize and I met two wonderful ladies who to this day I stay in contact. We Zoom chat once a month. So I feel like with connecting with everyone, I feel like Zoom was like my thing to at least see, you know, because you can't see anyone face to face. So it was very, very helpful. I mean, I even Zoom chat with Andrea here and there. So yeah, but I feel like instead of being so afraid to go outside, to at least see what's out there in Vegas.
Yeah, I think all of us have became video, FaceTiming, Zoom, Microsoft Teams type of experts.
Yeah.
Right, whether we want to or not. All right. How about you, Colleen?
I don't think there's a lot that I would do differently, except for in the beginning. I kept the news on constantly around the clock, which wasn't healthy at all for not only me, but for my kids. I didn't realize that even though they weren't paying attention, they were just picking up on all this negative energy. So I feel like the first month I had a lot just a lot of anxiety, in which I've never had a problem with anxiety in the past. So when I realized that was happening, we just kind of nixed that. And I just thought to myself, there's probably never going to be another time, at least, while my kids are still young, that I'm going to be able to have lunch with them every single day, or just, go for a walk whenever we want to, go up to Mount Charleston or to Red Rock. So I really tried to just put my energy into that, and being thankful that I had my daughter was supposed to go off to college this past year, but decided to stay home because of 2020. So I did get her home an extra year, which was great. So I don't think that there is really a lot that I would do differently, because I think that after I got past that first initial month, I just kind of appreciated the time that I had with family.
Of course. And, who wants to go see the news 24/7? We're
so unhappy.
Yeah, I was guilty of the Twitter, how many Twitter alerts about the rise of COVID cases on a daily basis. We have to set that time. And like, as Dania says, always take care of your mental health. There's something that, constantly reminds you of something that's not good. Take it off, focus on something. Focus on that. Sheena, what about you?
I think the main thing would be, I guess, not stressing as much as I did. I did stress a lot. I have a lot of anxiety during the time. Even though I still had my job, there were a lot of unknowns to it. So I think all the unknowns were just really giving me that anxiety. Plus being a single mom and thinking, okay, how do I work and take care of my daughter at the same time? So there was a lot that was going on during that time. And then even last summer, I was positive with COVID. So that was really stressful to deal with, just because, of all different factors going on with work and just family at home. So I think just stressing less and just kind of talking about it more to people, or being more open. I think that's something that I regret not really doing as much, but definitely learned from that. And I definitely am a little bit more open with other people and what's going on. So yeah. And actually during that time, I did join the National Alliance for Mental Illness. So I am a volunteer for that now too. So that's kind of a good thing that came out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for you, Thiago?
Actually, with you guys, I wouldn't change a thing. Like, of course, it was tough for a lot of people around me. The anxiety, of course, was around all of us. But on a personal level, I know I did my best, all the way from like providing to my family, to applying to jobs, to pretty much improving my craft, learning new skills, getting new certifications. As I said, I have tons of empathy what was going on around the world, but like on a personal level, I really focus and stay on my cocoon and like not let anything come in. So
thank you for that. And I think all of us have, really, learned from our mistakes and our, the things that we do to navigate during the pandemic, whether it worked or not. But we don't seem to regret that decision, because we all have to feel and experience that. And who's to say that, oh, I'm going to knock on wood right now, but let's hope this doesn't happen again. But we're much better prepared, if there was a time that may happen. But I know that we're kind of running close to out of time, so I'm going to fast forward just a few of our questions. But I kind of want to leave off on like a little bit of a positive note, and I know some of us, our students that are watching this, we will have some time for Q&A. So this is the last question that we have for our panel. The last question of the night. Any advice you would recommend to students who are having trouble finding their dream job in hospitality, given how the pandemic affected their job? So, Andrea, any advice you have for our students?
The biggest advice I can give you is there's a 9 out of 10 chance you're not going to get your dream job walking out of school. And I learned very quickly that hospitality is not this big, it is this big. And it's a huge umbrella with many, 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 many raindrops underneath. And there's a million things you can do, especially in Las Vegas. The city bleeds on hospitality, whether you're at a hotel or a restaurant, event planning company, wherever. Like, the biggest advice I can give you is just get your foot in the door. Do the intern hours. I know it sucks not getting paid, trust me, but get your foot in the door, do the intern hours. Like, even if you have to start at the low level, you're gonna have to do it, because hospitality is what you know, but it's also who you know. And another thing is, don't burn your bridges, because your boss probably knows a bunch of other bosses at a bunch of other hotels, at a bunch of other DMCs, and word travels fast. So just make sure you're on your A game, and don't, if you're a coordinator and you want to be a manager, act like you want to be a manager, dress like you want to be a manager, prepare to the manager role, because you have to keep on your toes in order to keep moving up the ranks. And you can move, you just got to stay dedicated.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting yourself out there. And, you know, in the field of hospitality, I think all of us are very fortunate that, you know, the lines of getting from an entry level to a manager, or like a supervisor to a manager level, goes very quick. You know, we are, you know, not, I mean, I know I can speak from, you know, from my past friends who are in the medical field. You have to do 8 years of residency and, you know, go through a series of training and all that. Hospitality moves very fast. It's a 24/7 job. And, you know, the more you do, the more you start, you'll get there quickly. You know, you just don't know it, but it will happen as long as you put yourself out there and really have that presence. Dania, what advice would you have?
I'll say you won't really know what your dream job is until you've done the job. You can imagine, dream, and kind of think that wedding planning is the thing, or event design is the thing, or running a restaurant is the thing, until you've done it. For me, I have moved around a lot, from front desk to food and beverage to events and now sales. And now I kind of feel like I have a better understanding of all the raindrops under the umbrella, you know? So you really don't know what it is that dream is until you've done it. So I'll say give it all a try, especially coming out of school. It's a good idea to give it all a try. I kind of did it differently on the back end. I stayed in a role for like 7 years that I thought it was my dream and I loved. And now I'm kind of on the back end, like, I want to try, I want to see, because you don't really know until you try it. So try all the things, keep the networks, and it'll work for you. The networks will work for you. So start somewhere and try it all, so you can figure out what that dream truly is.
Yeah, and dreams changes constantly. You know, one dream that you think of yesterday is gonna be something different the next day. How about you, Brianna?
One thing I will say is never turn down an opportunity. Never turn it down. You'd be surprised what opportunity you may get could get you to your dream job. Because I will be honest, right after school, I was working in a spa, you know, but I mean, at least it was kind of my foot in the door in hospitality in a way. And I went from working in a spa to working at Topgolf, and then to where I'm at now. And just like how Andrea and Dina has said, like, you'd be surprised who knows who. Like, literally where I'm at right now, a lot of the directors actually opened Topgolf, or they knew a lot of upper management or directors at the spa. So the hospitality industry, it is big, but it's a lot smaller than you think. Everyone knows everyone. So one thing I will say is, you know, of course, don't burn a bridge. Always work as if, or even just with your performance, just try to show that you are willing to take that next step. Don't be afraid to communicate with any of your managers or your supervisors, because one thing I will say is, if you don't communicate with them that you are interested in moving up and you are interested in getting to where you want to go, they're not going to know. and they're not going to make a plan for you just because you're working. So definitely communicate. And when you're looking for an opportunity, always try to at least have something that it may not be the job in hospitality, but from my experience, I always look for something that had something similar to what hospitality had. So at least that way I can build my skill set. So yeah, just do your research and you'll get there. Trust me, you'll get there.
Couldn't agree more.
Mm-hmm.
And for you, Colleen, what advice do you have?
Mine would be just to be open-minded. You know, if you are just really seeking out maybe only a managerial role, but something in that same department comes up that might be under that position, be open-minded to take it, and show them how hard you work and prove yourself. And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. I have to say that that's one of the biggest things that I think has made me successful and other people I know in the hospitality industry. You always have to be willing to jump in and be flexible at any point, you know, and find a mentor. Mentors are great. Not only can they help guide you, but they can introduce you to people. You know, like everyone on this panel has said, Las Vegas is so small, especially if you've worked on the Strip. You know, I've been in town for, I think, 17, 18 years now. And I know so many people who know so many people who know so many people. And it's just, it's incredible how small this town really is. It seems somewhat like a big city, but it's really not.
And I have to agree with that, the mentorship, you know, find yourself a mentor. You know, there's mentors out there and you don't even know. You're probably even talking to one right now. Doesn't have to be like an official formality, you know, your coworkers, people, you know, doesn't have to be someone that's young. If someone that's younger than you, they can also act as your mentor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it comes from all aspects.
Yeah.
How about you, Sheena?
I would say don't be afraid to start from the bottom and work your way up. When I was at the school, I was working as a host in the spot Cosmo, and I was actually making a decent amount of money during that time for that age, especially with tips. And, you know, I got so used to the tips on the Strip. And then when my dream job at that time, which was working at the Wynn in weddings, opened up for an assistant planner, and it was getting paid significantly less. But I knew that if I get into that role, I'll eventually try to work hard and work my way up to become my own wedding consultant there. So I did take a large pay cut to be a wedding consultant's assistant for 2 years. And then after that was done, I got promoted, and then I was there as my own consultant for 4 more years after that, and which was a really good experience for me. I met a lot of people there. And also make sure to use the school as a resource. Tim was the one who wrote a recommendation letter for me for the Wynn. So recommendation letters are always great, especially from the school. So that also helped me get an interview at the Wynn. And it did take me 3 months to get in, but I finally got in when I wanted to. So yeah, just don't be afraid to take a step back. I don't know what everyone's jobs is right now, but I know a lot of people live off the tips in Vegas. So just try not to get caught up in that if that's not what you really want to do. And don't be afraid to take a step back. But yeah, and then also what Colleen said in regards to a mentor. I had a mentor and her name was Cabby, and she was a wedding consultant that I assisted with at the Wynn. And she helped really guide me throughout everything I needed to learn with the job, with wedding planning, hospitality, customer service. And that all helped me get the job I have now. Moving to Reno was really easy to get me a hospitality job just because of my experience at the school, as well as all my jobs I got after that. So now I work for a different resort as an event sales manager, but yeah, I would just say definitely get a mentor, and just don't be afraid to take a step back, because it might be actually a step forward later on.
Thank you for that. And then last but not least, Thiago.
You know what, Anthony? I actually put a lot of thoughts on this question, and I'm glad we had the chance to hit it, just because, of course, the main goal of all of this is to give the students value and what they can do. So I actually thought in 3 different examples of practical examples that you can do right after the Zoom call. But I have to warn you, it's called hard work. So let me paint you 2 different scenarios, okay? The first one, let's pretend that you do have a job now. Maybe it's not the job that you really wanted, but you do have maybe that little bit of time to apply or maybe intern to a job that you really wanted, but you always thinking like, okay, I'm going to intern, like Andrea said, it sucks, they're not going to pay me, how I'm going to support myself. You have to put your foot in the door. So I actually thought in 3 different practical examples that we can do it right now. So the first one, you have to go to networking events. There's many associations in town. I understand they're paid. They range between 45 to 65, but it might be the best $65 that you ever spent. Because all the creme de la creme, everybody from the hospitality, it's over there. What I did when I didn't have a job, when I didn't have my internship, I actually produced some business cards with just my name, Thiago Roldan. I actually put underneath TISOH student, and I was just hitting these networking events, pretty much introducing myself. I wasn't trying to be pushy or salesy, but like I was just introducing myself, making connections, asking for people like for help, like, hey, what do you do? That's nice. Oh, are you a TISO graduate? That's awesome, because everybody knows TISO. Everybody in the hospitality knows TISO, because TISO is a really loved institution with the hospitality community. So 1, go to networking events, and Anthony can definitely help you out with this, all the way from WIPA to LVHA. You just do it all. The second example, LinkedIn is going to be your best friend during these times, okay? Connect with people, stay close as possible to the sun, stay close as possible to the people that you want to be, right? And the corporation that you want to work. Literally ask. Remember, you need them right now, not the way around. So you have to ask. Stay humble, like, hey, can I help with anything else? Like, I'm actually gonna graduate, sorry, in 3 months. Can I have opportunity? Can I stop by? Can I buy you coffee? Can I give you like, can I have like 30 minutes of your day? So we sit down in a Starbucks, I'll buy you coffee, and I can pick your brain with questions about hospitality. Show some interest. That is a huge game changer. And I actually did that too. The last but not least, hit the DMCs in person. Right now, there's a huge demand for work. So we're good on that. We're not in the middle of the pandemic anymore. So people are hiring right now. Go knock at the door. Like, don't, I understand that it's easier, go to the system, apply, send an email, but like, go to the door, like hit hello, all the DMCs, and say, hey, I'm a TISO graduate, or I'm about to graduate. You study about the company. Let's say if you go to hello, you study a little bit about the company. Say, hey, I love your company. I know you guys do a great job. I'm looking for opportunity, internship, whatever. I'm here. I'm ready to work. Believe it or not, that can move people. Like, people are looking for people without attitude, right? To actually work on this hospitality industry. As I said, my advice stays as close as possible to the sun. And let me finish one big thing that Andrea actually touched base with me a few weeks ago. Let me tell you something about internships. Internships, they are awesome, but you're not going to learn the craft in 2 months. Let's be honest. Take this opportunity to make connections, talk to people, find stuff that are familiar between both of you. If you're doing an internship in a company and this guy has a Golden Knights cup on top of the table, talk about the Golden Knights, make connections. You'll be surprised because maybe that person that you just changed maybe 2 or 3 minutes of conversation can help you out in a year or so. So that's my advice.
All right, thank you, Diago. Now we're at 6:02 p.m. I know we've gone a little bit over, but the last 3 minutes, we're going to handle some outstanding questions that we have for our alum, from our students in our audience. Thank you, Sheena, for tackling on some of the questions. And I guess most of the questions from the alums is, what tips do you have for basically for students that have zero experience in event planning and hospitality? I'll answer that question. All the students today, you know, you don't have zero hospitality experience. Just being at TISO is already an experience. You have the education and knowledge. Pair that up with upcoming internships and volunteer opportunities that are being sent to you. Okay, let us know. You know, we can be of a resource to you. Just, you know, you can reach out to me, you know, if you're ever needing some advice and some guidance. And also, you know, you can also follow us on tisonext.com. Many of our alums are featured on the Alumni Spotlight, and they can share you a little bit about, you know, how they got their break into the industry. Some of them have already worked in the industry, but there's also a good majority of students that have started without that background in hospitality. They came to our school and then they were really to make a name of themselves throughout their program. Once again, I want to thank special thanks to our alumni panel for spending time with us this evening. Thank you to Andrea, Dania, Colleen, Brianna, Sheena, and Thiago. I know all of you have busy schedules, so thank you for sharing your TISO journey to our students. Thank you again to our audience for participating in our panel discussion this evening. If you want to connect more with our alums, we do have an exciting event coming up. This is our first in-person event, our summer mixer. It's been over a year, and we were so excited to get started and really relaunch our TISO special events. Coming up July 30th, we'll have the Flights and Bites event at the Vegas Valley Winery. Tickets are $25, and you'll get to experience the only winery in the Vegas Valley with some sample wine tasting and education. Space is extremely limited, and we are following COVID protocols. So please RSVP early to save your spot. You can register at tisoalumni.eventbrite.com. All the information provided to you can be found at tisonow.com for current students and tisonext.com for our alums. And again, anyone who missed a portion of this discussion can view the full entirety on our YouTube channel at TISO channel. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you all at our summer mixer in the next couple of weeks. Have a good, wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.